Welcome to Viseland, Mikey. What is going on this week?
Pretty much the NBA finals are going on tomorrow, which are very exciting. But what we wanted to do this week on Viseland is have an off-season outlook for the 14 playoff teams that have been eliminated up to this point, kind of give an idea of who stood out this year, who's standing out going forward, their draft capital, and potential free agents. And the other thing we wanted to do is do a little finals preview that we'll save until the end of the show. But yeah, Jason, what are you thinking?
Well, it's Miami versus LA, like we all predicted. Everyone had that going in.
You and I actually last week, given that they both had 2-1 leads.
2-1 leads, yeah. We were able to predict that. What really sealed it for me was when they had 3 wins, and I was like, no, I think they can do it. But no, I think we'll talk about it later. But yeah, let's get.
When the Lakers were up on Denver 3-1, I was like, well, Denver has them right where they want.
Well, for Denver, that was actually kind of true.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
but yes, the Lakers did beat Denver 4-1 in the Western Conference Finals, and Miami bested Boston 4-2. Both very impressive performances, and it should be. I'm thinking a very interesting NBA Finals with a team. The Lakers won both regular season matchups. I think this is just a different Miami team than they faced in the regular season, and it's going to be very interesting. But let's get into some of the teams that were eliminated from the playoffs and just kind of go over some of their best players, what their future kind of looks like, at least their immediate future as far as next year is concerned. And we're going to go by pretty much like lowest record to the best teams that were eliminated in the playoffs. And so we have 14 teams to go over, and we'll try to go over them fairly quickly. Jason, Orlando is the first team that we're going over. When you think Orlando, who are some of the players that you think about?
Well, I take it back to Shaq and Penny, but no.
Well, yeah. More recently, but
no.
Orlando certainly wishes it was in the Shaq and Penny stage.
Right now it's
a good time.
Yeah, Vucevic, Aaron Gordon. I think Markelle Fultz is like showing like a little career resurgence.
Evan Fournier is another player that certainly is played pretty well. Just looking at them as far as what they're kind of going to be looking for in the offseason, it certainly seems like they need help at guard, particularly an initiator. They do have Markelle Fultz. He still hasn't really figured out his long-range shooting. He's able to get to the basket, and he did show some nice flashes. But the thing with Kel is I believe he's getting paid like $12 million next year. And that's just on his rookie scale.
Yeah, because it's as a number one.
It went up, like it goes up quite a bit from this year to next year. I believe the Magic retained his rights for that. He would have a $15 million qualifying offer in 2021-22, I believe. And I have a feeling that is going to be taken off the table, and they'll probably try to either trade him or do some kind of extension. He's still, to me, he's still a guy who has a chance to get to that level of being paid that kind of money. But I think there needs to be some semblance of shooting. And the initial thought with him was that he had shot well from three-point range. He was a great pull-up shooter in college. Just you thought he'd be a little better without the ball and a little better on catch and shoot. But yeah, that seems to be another huge issue for the Magic in general.
Yeah, it's kind of, they got like a few shooting holes as well. Like they got like Terrence Ross kind of is who he is, but he's never going to be, go-to shooter either. I think they eventually.
Yeah, it's not even about being a go-to shooter. It's just being about
dependable.
Yeah, exactly. Dependable. And I think you at least know what you're getting from Terrence Ross there. You have an idea of Evan Fournier like being able to shoot pretty well. Yeah, nothing out of this world for either of them. But yeah, the Magic, it's just they seem to have the kind of crowded front court right now. Crowded. I don't want to say the other one. But yeah, they they need help at guard. Like they can certainly use help there. The other guy who we're leaving out because it certainly seems like he is off the table next year, and that's Jonathan Isaac. Unfortunate injury for him, and he looked like an all defensive player. Like it was honestly getting some hype as a defensive player of the year candidate until he got hurt, and then he's basically set to sit out all of next year.
Yeah, it's a long
and he's like a guy that you're kind of hoping to build around and hoping to get more out of offensively. Aaron Gordon, I felt, took a bit of a tumble. He could be a guy that they look to trade. And then they signed Nikola Vucevic after his All-Star year, and he's a guy that can win you a few games, but it's hard to say that he's going to be the person that you build around. He's a really good offensive center, not terrible defensively. And then of course another big player that they have that they drafted fairly recently is Mohamed Bamba, and he certainly showed some flashes as well. But yeah, they have the front court depth that I think they're pretty happy with. You wish there were a few more offensive flashes there. Defensively, they look good, and Chuma Okeke is going to hopefully be set to go next year. But yeah, and then when you look at their so draft-wise, they draft 15th, and they have a second-round pick, which is 45. So yeah, keep both their picks.
That's positioning to get someone that can kind of contribute. But yeah, I think they're.
Yeah, I think they're in really good position to draft somebody that can contribute, and hopefully a guard. You would hope. I mean, obviously you want an initiator, but at the very least, somebody that can provide a dependable shooting.
Shooting, yeah.
Their defense would be a plus, but they're certainly. I think the Magic's best qualities right now seem to be that they have a lot of players that can defend fairly well. And they're free agents for next season that played some pretty significant minutes. DJ Augustine, who's been their point guard for the last few years.
Yeah, very long time. Yeah.
He was at a pretty reasonable contract, right in the $7 million. That's pretty much bench player range for an NBA team. And then the other players that played some significant minutes in the playoffs. Michael Carter-Williams didn't play a ton, but he was still, I guess, a bit of a factor for them, and he certainly can cover some combo guard minutes.
Yeah.
And then Gary Clark was somebody that they kind of had acquired later on and played some nice minutes for them in the playoffs. So I'm guessing they'll try to retain his services, but he could possibly be looking at a few other teams on the market there. But yeah, so as far as Orlando goes, do you think they're better next year, or do you think that they kind of stay in the same range?
I think they stay in the same range of the kind of the bottom part of the Eastern Conference playoff picture.
Yeah, fighting for the East. Yeah, Orlando they had that time where they seem to be somewhat of a free agent destination. I guess Tracy McGrady was so long ago.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, I just it doesn't seem like they're set up that well to add really too much through free agency. The hope is in the draft, and it seems like most people are mocking a point guard there, or somebody that can just provide some offensive spark. Somebody with some upside, and at 15th, I think you can get it in this draft.
You can definitely get someone that can either be that facilitator or just a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so moving on.
Yeah, I just
Oh, what
don't.
are you going to say?
I was just gonna say I don't. Yeah, like they're okay, but they don't have what it takes to like to go in the playoffs and really like move on.
That is for sure. Yeah, it just seems like they have a lot of guys that kind of overlap,
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily like they're in the best position to play all of those guys together. But yeah, we'll move on to the Portland Trailblazers, a personal favorite of Viseland, the place where I live.
a little too well.
What were you saying?
A team we know a little too well.
Yeah, sure enough. With Portland, they of course have the guards that they've built around forever, and then very luckily we had the chance to get Yusuf Nurkic back, and so yeah, I've done for all these teams like kind of like a top 3 guys just to look forward as far as next year, and these are just guys that aren't on the free agent block, and some of them could be on the trade block, but these are just some the main, I feel like every team has like their like stars, at least in that certain market. So yeah, the 3 guys I choose for Portland are Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Yusuf Nurkic. And yeah, Nurk was great. Really, really a huge boost having him back.
It was such a difference, and he kind of added a little bit more range to his shooting too when he came back, and that was
sure.
I don't want him out there all the time, but like the fact that it is possible is nice to have that threat.
Incredibly talented player.
Yeah,
incredibly talented player, and conditioning wise, like kind of caught up with him at the end, but he played his heart out, and he played some fantastic games and under rough circumstances with his grandmother, and he is beloved amongst the city of Portland, as are Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum.
And that's reflected in their contracts too. They're locked in, and I think like
well, the talk always will be of possibly trading CJ McCollum. I think Damian Lillard is just kind of set unless he announces he wants to trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, the will Dame and CJ work? It seems like they get you to a certain point, which is fantastic.
Right, yeah.
But if you want to get past that point, if you want to unleash championship Damian Lillard, you may need a different piece next to him than CJ McCollum, who is still like such a great scorer and shooter, and
sometimes
has the ability to create.
They kind of balance each other out a little bit. Like Dame has the off game. That's when CJ comes up. Like they do a little bit of that sometimes. But it's tough having the two smaller.
It's just like you kind of worry about the rest of the team, and it certainly would have been nice to have Trevor Ariza available. And they'll at least have him for hopefully next year.
Yeah. Once that's figured out.
And then, so draft capital wise, Blazers pick 1646. And again, I think they are probably in the market for either like a positive scoring guard. It seems like they're always looking for the person to replace CJ McCollum. Gary Trent Jr. certainly took a step in the right direction.
Oh, definitely. He's going to get.
He's not going to be CJ McCollum, but he was at least a really consistent shooter, and then played some great defense, and also could seemed to guard the 2 or the 3. He had a pretty rough matchup with LeBron James in the first round.
As do a lot of players.
Yeah, as they all do.
Yeah.
And then as far as free agency goes, they took the year of Hassan Whiteside. They eventually trade Kent Bazemore, and
Rodney Hood has a player option.
Oh yeah.
He was out all year, so like I mean, he provided something for the Blazers.
Yeah, Rodney Hood with the player option. I'm not sure. I'm guessing he'll take it.
Why wouldn't you coming off an ACL injury? I think
unless he thinks there's a different market for him, or he can get long term, which is doubtful, very doubtful.
I guess like he's coming off the injury. I think like he would play a lot for the Blazers because I think they relied on him in a couple games 2 years ago.
Yeah,
in the playoffs. So I'm pretty sure he'll take the player option.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I didn't even have him amongst the key free agents because I'm assuming he'll take the option as well. But yeah, the two guys who played big minutes for Portland and are going to be free agents are Hassan Whiteside, and I'm guessing that he is absolutely gone.
I don't think $27 million is coming his way again. Like, he was a nice rental. I liked what he provided, but yeah, he's
I don't think he's in the like looking at like 8 figures even. Like, I'm guessing it's somewhere in the mid-level range.
Yeah, where he's gonna. Yeah, he's kind
of. Hassan Whiteside led the NBA in block shots per game. Still a pretty mediocre defender. Like, just not incredibly versatile as a defender. Has trouble in space, as many bigs do.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was able to garner a second place defensive player of the year vote, and I think an all defensive second team vote, which were utterly ridiculous. But he still like it. He was a fine replacement for Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah, I think it was.
Portland was not in the playoff picture with Hassan Whiteside, like, or they're in the playoff picture, but they weren't in the top 8 teams with Hassan Whiteside. They needed Yusuf Nurkic to come back, likely for that to happen.
But he was a good serviceable rental for the.
He was, and it seemed like he got along well with the other guys. The one thing that is hilarious is I think during the debate tonight, Hassan Whiteside channeled our inner rage and said, like, you know, fuck this, bro, I'm leaving America and moving to Hawaii, which I find absolutely hilarious. And I think he needs to make like shirts and like everything.
Yeah, I have to fact check that, because that seems awesome.
Yeah. Oh, he tweeted it out. It out. Yeah, it's wow. And that's as we all know or should know, Hawaii is America. But still,
the term which is like, did they want to be, like that's another debate for another time. But yes, currently, yes, they are definitely.
Yeah. They may not want to be, but it sucks and they are. But yeah, we have so Hassan and then Carmelo Anthony. And will Carmelo Anthony come back for like veterans min? It certainly seems doubtful. Like, it seems like Portland's getting prepared to say goodbye to Carmelo Anthony. I think he had a good time here.
Yeah, I think it was a great.
Played a pretty crucial role because the Blazers were desperate for front court scoring, and he's still like, he's not the Melo of the past, but he can still create his own shot. He's still a guy that can get some buckets.
Yeah, I'd love for him to come back to Portland, just because, just the fact, again, he is a Hall of Fame player, kind of, I mean, probably, but
no, he is.
There's
no question.
I doubt he's gonna want to take the minimum again. Like, I think he'll do the same thing he did last year this year. Like, I think no one's gonna pick him up. Some team's gonna kind of struggle at the beginning and realize they kind of need a little bit of offensive boost, or maybe.
I think somebody will pick him up. I disagree.
Like, you think like mid-level?
I think he's done. Yeah, I don't know. Will like a playoff contending team pick him up, or like I think there's some team that is hoping to fight for like a bottom playoff spot or somebody like that.
Because it's tough, because he kind of needs support too. Like, you can't.
He's like Taken. I call the main character of Taken, and Melo has a very particular set of skills.
Yeah,
and
he does.
So he's basically like the NBA's version of Taken, and he kind of makes no sense for many teams. But
I love
at the same time, he's going to give you a little bit of something and give you a little boost of offense that you might not otherwise not have.
He hit some good shots, like he did a bit, obviously defensive.
He was very key for the Blazers. Like, the Blazers' depth was an absolute issue.
No, totally. And Simon's kind of did very well. Simon's never rose to the way you wanted to see him come in his the second year.
Yeah.
But Trent did. Like, Trent did, kind of.
Yeah. Trent, like, second.
At least they have, like, I'm confident in Trent going into next year. Simon's like, don't know what that long-term future is, because, again,
Trent's a rotation guy. Like,
Oh, for sure. He's doing that. Even with Rodney Hood coming back, he's still going to get
for sure
real good rate of minutes.
For sure. Yeah. And then I could see Ariza playing some at the 4. They'll have an interesting lineup. You just hope that they stay healthy, and they could be better than last year.
Yeah, I think 8 seed, no. Like, I mean, they proved like again, like you hate to go back in time, but it's like 2 years ago, it's like they did make that run to the conference finals. And
if Portland's fighting for the 8 seed next year, I think it's a letdown.
oh, totally. And I think that's a.
I have a feeling if they're fighting for the 8 seed next year, they're like kind of just thrown in the towel and like.
Yeah, they're gonna blow up. They're gonna like have to like reassess. Like they're gonna have to move some things around. Like I think they're at this point. Yeah, they only have like maybe a few more years, especially Nurkic health wise. David CJ still being able to go at both ends. That's it. So I think 8 seed is like super disappointing. I want to see them like 4. I think like that's like a realistic.
I don't know how realistic that is, but I think
it's a realistic goal. It's a realistic goal for them.
It's a realistic goal.
Yeah, because I mean, Golden State's back next year, for sure. Like Golden, getting whoever they get with the
numbers. The LA teams are coming back. Denver is looking like a beast.
Denver's not going anywhere, and I mean, they're again. We'll talk about them, but yeah.
Yeah, and then I still think Houston's going to be pretty good. Utah, if they are all back, the West is
super
pretty tough.
It's
pretty tough up top.
But I think the Blazers don't do it next year. Make a jump. They're gonna have to.
I wonder if they're going to make you just are waiting for the year they make a big splash in the offseason.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Moving on to Brooklyn, they are a team that I believe at least the Nets fans next year are hoping that they're going to make a major turnaround.
Yeah. Well, especially going into the bubble where it's like everyone was like, I'm good. Like DeAndre Jordan didn't come either. It's like,
and they still finished really well in the bubble.
No, totally. I mean,
they were 5-3.
I think Karis LeVert did a few, did some things at the bubble that also gave you a lot of.
Yeah, they gave you hope.
Positive hope for
you certainly want more consistent shooting from Karis, but yeah, he's a good all-around player. Spencer Dinwiddie last year
also not in the
averaged 20 points per game. It's not going to happen this year, but he is another guy who is a good role player for them. And
then they have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting on they were just sitting at
home.
Those
are the guys. So yeah, you're thinking Kevin Durant takes this year off. Obviously, was rehabilitating.
And you look at it now; it's like a year and a half. It's going to be like a year and a half. Like by the time that the next 2021 season starts, he's had like 18 almost.
Tore his Achilles, and
bad injury.
You're assuming though, since he is Kevin Durant, one of the great scorers of all time. When he's coming back, he's going to make a huge impact on winning. And I'm thinking at the very least, like a top 10 to 15 guy at his top side, a top 5 guy.
Yeah, no, I think, even like a slightly down Kevin Durant is still pretty.
Top 5 maybe underselling it. Like he could be like a top 3 guy because he was great with Golden State.
Like he and Kyrie obviously have
great for Golden State. He's been a great player for a very long time.
And it's like interesting things like on Brooklyn that you like too. Like I think like Jared Allen's kind of like an energetic center.
I wonder if he's going to stay around. Like I wonder if they're not shopping him, and I don't think it's justified that they're shopping him. I think it's because Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are boys with DeAndre Jordan. And they are just like, well, this other guy, let's see what we can get for him. Like that. And to me, Jared Allen is the far superior player at this point.
No, totally. I mean, you got to go.
Somebody that I would, hope to at least have a year with him. He's another guy who you're going to have to kind of figure out as far as an extension. But yeah, he's somebody that I feel could unfairly be let go from this team.
But I mean, I guess these players are getting to this point now. It's like they're calling the shots, and I mean, got on them. It's just I think Jared Allen way up, DeAndre Jordan way down.
Most definitely.
To me, I think it's an easy decision.
But exactly. Like you said, the players are calling the shots. I
Yeah,
think that Kyrie and Kevin Durant are thinking that if they can get something for Jared Allen, then that might be
which they
something.
probably can because he's
And especially like when you factor in that you're going to have to re-sign Jared Allen to a pretty, like, I'm guessing, probably in like the 12 to 15
yeah
million range, somewhere
starting
around
center,
there.
you know,
Yeah.
type.
And you already, so you have Dinwiddie has a player option 21-22 that he'll probably turn down and look to either go somewhere else or go to the highest bidder or start like a pyramid scheme or do one of those things.
Whatever. He's already
Um,
on that trajectory.
yeah, exactly. And and then you have Terrace making like 17 and a half, like somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just re-upped for like a pretty decent amount of money. Yeah. 16, 17 and a half, 18. So yeah, he's signed through 2022-23. And then you have DeAndre Jordan through 2022-23. So that's another guy. He's making about 9-ish or somewhere around there. Jared Allen will undoubtedly make more than that. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. You're just assuming that you want somebody to, like, the guy that people seem to love going to Brooklyn would be like a guy like Desmond Bane or like Grant Riller or somebody to provide that instant offense, because I think there's very serious possibility that Joe Harris leaves in free agency.
Yeah.
And he's their one major free agent that they had in the rotation. And and then the other guy, I didn't even remember to talk about him, who signed a couple-year extension, Torian Waller-Prince. And so, they have a little bit of depth there. I'm thinking you'll get like some Kevin Durant at the 5 minutes. Like, this is going to be a really interesting roster. And the offensive firepower of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I wonder how it's going to work out, but I think it could be really big time. And I assume that these guys are going to be near the top of the Eastern
Well, it'd
Conference.
be interesting to see too, like what Steve Nash provides as far as coaching, like what his
Nash.
his sort of, because again, he's played for Don Nelson, like D'Antoni, and I mean those are kind of when he had some of his most successful years. So it's like, is it going to be this like high octane up tempo? Probably.
Yeah, one could assume. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the style.
Because
I have a feeling it's going to be whatever, like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
No, totally. Which I mean, obviously, like Steve Nash also kind of like consulted with Kevin Durant and Golden State, so there's that rapport already there. So I'm guessing, it's like it's going to be like versatile, up tempo type.
Yeah, you want playmakers, you want passing, like much like Golden State. You don't want it to become like a kind of like, as great as they are as isolation scorers, you don't really want it to become that. You want some unpredictability in their offense. And yes, you have like these two spectacular engines working together, but I feel like Kyrie worked very well with LeBron James, and I have a feeling he's going to work quite well with Kevin Durant. Hopefully they seem to get along. They seem to be friendly. So.
And they're the two players in the NBA that have also had like they've made movies starring themselves that have both been terrible. I'm talking Uncle Drew and Thunderstruck.
Yes.
So they also have that. They could always go to
I think
the video on demand.
They will most bond over that.
Yeah. So they're most bond over like what that's like to
They'll most bond over the fact that they're like, oh, we don't like being in the spotlight, and then make a movie. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
great idea.
That'll take the
you really figured out how to get away from the spotlight, guys.
Yeah, no one pays attention to film.
I think Katie has a burner, has multiple meanings. But we'll move on to Dallas. And Dallas has, I think, the premier young talent in the NBA. Probably, I would say a guy who, if you were to ask who you would like to build a team around, most people would likely say Luka Doncic.
Oh, I was going to say Boban. I thought you were talking about. I got super confused.
Boban is.
I don't know how young he is, but I thought
again
like in that direction because he's young at heart.
He is. I would say the Michael Jordan of high fives, and nobody gives them better than Boban. But yes, he's also like a super fun teammate and great to have around.
But yeah,
And,
Luka.
Luka's enforced.
Yeah.
Nobody's messing with Luka as long as they have Bobby.
Oh,
But yeah, as far as Dallas goes, they are a fun young team. They just so happen to also have the best offensive rating in NBA history this year. So
I think
they still have a way to go. Plus,
pieces, yeah. I think.
oh yeah. Well, and not to mention they played like really some great games against the Los Angeles Clippers, who, despite losing in spectacular fashion in this Western Conference semifinals to Denver, were a great team. So yeah, not a very easy team to play against for your first playoff matchup if you're Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, and of course Kristaps got hurt. But yeah, Luka already showed that he can play some remarkable playoff minutes, and just is somebody that you can hand the offensive keys to.
Oh, totally. And I don't think we're at his ceiling. Like he's so young. It's like
not even close. Like the fact that he's not even like at league average 3-point percentage yet, and yet the volume is still so key, and you're absolutely happy with him taking
and then
those
again,
shots.
Watch his ability to hit them at opportune.
Improved his body and athleticism, I think, a great deal. Was able to score around the basket very well. Has amazing touch on his floater, and one of the best passers in the league already. He's walking triple-double at this point, and
totally.
Averaging 30 points per game this year or close to it, and did end up making the All-NBA first team, which I was a bit of a surprise to me. But, it's – you can't say that it wasn't deserved. He certainly had a pretty big argument for making that team. So, yeah, you have Luka, you have Kristaps, and the third guy I put in was Tim Hardaway Jr. But, yeah, they have a bunch of nice, pieces around there. Like Dorian Finney-Smith was very key this year.
Trey Burke kind of,
yeah,
came back. Like, I mean, again, not dominant, but like he was playing some okay minutes for them.
Well, he's another guy who I'm not sure how you're going to work the signing out.
Oh no, totally. Like he's just playing to get his.
He is like a free agent. Seth Curry though. Seth Curry, Maxi Kleber. Dwight Powell was somebody I feel like they missed, and it would have been nice to have him around.
No, because he's a good.
He was around, and he was one of the key pieces in the Bottle DJ little TikTok thing they did at the beginning of Orlando, but he unfortunately was not playing in Orlando.
Yeah, and I think it gives him he's a good front court toughness.
Absolutely.
Which I think you need that balance with Porzingis too, because he's.
Jalen Brunson also was missing, and I think that was a huge reason why Trey Burke was there. Trey Burke did play some good minutes for them. Like, for sure, he had a few good games, but I'm not sure how much Trey Burke weighs into their future.
No, totally. He was playing on to audition for somebody else.
Yeah. So, yeah, as far as draft capital is concerned, they have the 18th pick and then the 31st pick, which is the first pick in the second round. And then other than Trey Burke, the one I guess significant free agent, but he didn't really play very much for them at all, Courtney Lee, who was I think making $12 million this last year. Yeah, $12 million. He was part of the Kristaps trade, and to make the money work, and he's off the books. So yeah, I still think salary cap wise. Yeah, I think they can sign somebody.
Luka's still rookie deal.
Yeah, like I know Goran Dragic was somebody that they talked about in the past. I have a feeling that they do sign somebody to probably a short-term deal.
Yeah, I think an interesting place for certain veteran players to kind of be intrigued to
absolutely
join that.
And they're a team on the rise to me.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Because they have a future MVP candidate.
Yeah. I noticed.
And an excellent sidekick if Kristaps plays anything like he did the last little bit.
Stays healthy, like health.
And healthy for sure.
Oh, on the
But yeah, one of the best shooting big men in the league.
Yeah, unicorn, and you
certainly, can play on both ends of the floor. The defense, I don't think was fully there, and I think that was just with the team in general. But yeah, they're a team on the rise. And,
but I think that you can acquire in free agency. Like they can get like a tough, big, big guy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you were I don't know, tough big guy. Like, how do you see that working?
Like more for bench, but just like to have, to like.
I mean, that's Dwight Powell. Like,
no, totally. But I mean, you can never. To me, I like
and Boban.
Boban's more of a figurehead, but yeah, like someone who's just can provide.
I would want another guard, honestly. But yeah,
I think that's what they go for in the draft.
Wing defender. Yeah, well, yeah, you can look for that in the draft. But yeah, I'm thinking free agency wise, they like if Goran is there and they can sign him short term.
No, totally. I think that would. Oh, if Goran's there, totally do it. Especially because if he and Luka, have kind of a rapport already. But like I'd say, like
and they do.
Like you look at like one of the Morris twins, like those kind of guys, like just play some spot minutes for you. I think that like those kind of guys that you can get on, cheaper mid-level to like minimum.
Yeah, you're hoping. I think you're hoping for somebody that may move the needle a little more, but we will see. Moving on to Philly. We know who they're building around. I don't know how much longer they are, but you have Joel Embiid, you have Ben Simmons. Tobias Harris is the third guy, I guess. You're not ecstatic with how much you signed him for. You're very much not ecstatic for how much you signed Al Horford for over a long period of time.
Yeah, 12, good 12-year veteran. And like especially you look at where Philadelphia is today, they're sitting at home and Jimmy, they kind of didn't want,
Yeah, I feel like
I don't think Jimmy should have stayed.
I'm Jimmy. I don't think was at fault at all.
No, totally. I don't think he is. But
I think he just didn't get along with some of the guys there.
With some of those guys, and that like proves something about those guys.
Oh, it does.
Because Jimmy's like
Jimmy is
he's rubbed people the wrong way. He wants to win.
Yeah, if they win the championship in Miami this year, like the Jimmy thing is genius, and I have a feeling they're going to be good. And like, it's just I understand the hesitance to sign Jimmy. I guess I less understand that with the fact that they signed Al Horford for as long as they did.
Like that's then if you can't afford it, like, and that's it. Or
There's no question that, and Al Horford does make less than Jimmy, but not much. And yeah, like it seems like
a lot less.
Tobias Harris making $32 million seems excessive. Like it seems like a lot, and that's going to be really tough to trade. Like in 23-24, he's making $39 million.
Yeah, that's not. And then also like
I felt like they had all these assets, and trading for Tobias was it almost worked. They looked really good last year. They took the Raptors to 7. They were a Kawhi game-winning shot at the end of Game 7
on the rim,
from going to overtime and possibly winning that series. But yeah, it just seems like you're going to have to do something there.
Yeah,
it's really hard to trade Al Horford or Tobias Harris. And then, the thing is with as well as Al Horford even shoots, like you don't want him playing next to Joel Embiid over extended minutes. That kind of kills the defense and the offense.
Then, like, how many more years do you think of like Ben Simmons and Joel? Like, how many?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd give him another one.
And then who do you think goes first?
I feel like it's Ben, but I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know.
It's tough because like
Ben is an initiator, and he's a guy that is another like walking triple double. And yes, the shooting can be an issue, but I think if you build around Ben, first off, he's creating for all of these other guys. So the other thing with me is I feel like Joel Embiid can be so damn dominant.
No, totally. That's
And
what
I am very hesitant to trade a player as dominant as Joel Embiid on both ends of the floor, and has that ability. Like his health has been a concern as well, and so is Ben's.
so.
Like,
Yeah,
Ben was the one who missed the playoffs.
Yeah, both of them don't have the cleanest bill of health, so it's like,
Yeah.
do you go with
But Joel Embiid is so damn dominant at times, and the odds of bringing back something that is going to make up for what you're giving up seems microscopic to me.
Of course, I doubt you get equal value back. I think you get more for I think you get more for Ben Simmons to then pair.
If you just have Ben Simmons and like build a bunch of shooters, because Joel loves to shoot, but he's not an amazing shooter.
But like,
then you want him around the basket because he's amazing around there.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, he gets that bug that a lot of guys get because like they hit a three.
So damn good. Oh, he loves taking threes. Joel Embiid thought he was like Kevin Durant.
No, totally.
And he was talented enough where you're like, okay, well, like, do your thing. But he even used to do, like, does he still do that Kevin Durant like free throw thing? Because he used to do that too.
I don't think he does that as much. I remember when he did kind of do that. But yeah, like it's interesting to him. Like I think
the one good contract they seem to have is Josh Richardson. That one's pretty solid. But yeah, starting next year, you have Ben Simmons on his re-up, and Ben Simmons is a max player.
No doubt, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of salary tied to 4 guys right now, and like they had a guy like Matisse Thybulle, and then you're hoping that. I think the ultimate hope is that Zaire Smith is eventually going to be able to do something and
contribute.
A good wing player off the bench for them as well. I think they were hoping a little more than that, but yeah, they seem to have had kind of rough luck as far as some of the draft picks, and losing Jimmy and signing Al was in retrospect not a great deal, and so. The one guy who is a free agent that was playing some pretty big minutes for them and looking pretty decent, and I'm guessing not coming back, is Alec Burks. And so they had traded for Alec Burks to kind of, I think, hope to make that playoff run. Ben Simmons not being available in the playoffs certainly hurt that, and Boston made pretty quick work of them. As far as draft capital, there's a lot. They have a lot of picks.
That's
almost all of them in, let's just say 80% of them in the second round. But yeah, they have the 21st pick. So that's their lone first round pick. They, I think, like fell back like a couple spots. It was like there were a bunch of teams that like traded and like, they have Oklahoma City's pick, I believe. They have the 34th pick. They have the 36th pick, they have the 49th pick, and they have the 58th pick. So, yeah, you're assuming that they're not just going to take a whole bunch of draft and stash guys. They'll probably trade for future capital, you're thinking. But, yeah, I'm sure they're going to at least try and make a trade. Buddy Hield's a name that's been floated around.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe any team is going to take either Tobias Harris or Al Horford, just because of how long and ridiculous those contracts seem at this point. Moving on, let's go to Utah. I have a feeling this may not be a team that sticks around as much. I don't know what's happening there. It seemed like on paper, like they were all good. And they got that nice 3-1 lead against the Nuggets. It looked like everything was going well. Donovan Mitchell playing out of his damn mind.
Oh yeah, he's getting.
He'll be the playoff leading scorer this year. But he, so Donovan Mitchell played well. You have Rudy Gobert, who's perennial defensive player of the year nominee.
Also on the NBA and a lot of people's shit list, including Donovan Mitchell, sort of. So
Yeah, some may say Rudy Gobert shut down the whole league, but yeah, just not while he's playing basketball, unfortunately. But yeah, obviously a great defensive anchor. And then the third guy I gave them was Mike Conley Jr.,
who's older, but he's on a player option as well, which he's gonna take because again, like
100%.
he's making so much money, like he'd be a
Mike Conley Jr. at this point, I don't believe is going to sign for like
30
close to that
plus
over a long-term deal.
Yeah, so like he's totally gonna come back on that player option.
Oh, not probably. Like he's coming back. Yeah. So you have one more year of Mike Conley Jr. Bojan Bogdanovic was somebody that you certainly wish you had in playoffs. That was unfortunate. Joe Ingles, really good role player as well. Yeah, you just kind of wonder what's happening with Utah. Jordan Clarkson gave you I felt like in the first few games he gave them good minutes off the bench. In the last few games, like you kind of live and die by him. He's somebody that can just put up buckets in a hurry, but he's not necessarily doing it for you on the other end. And yeah, there are times where that net rating is not going to look great.
Well, he's a free agent too, so.
And yeah, that's the other thing. He is a free agent.
So
but he was a valuable piece for them. So I'm thinking he's somebody that you're probably hoping to bring back. And I'm guessing you're hoping not at the same amount of money, and probably not over a long-term deal. On paper, like these guys looked at the beginning of the season like a team that was going to be fighting for like an NBA championship. Like many people felt like they were maybe the second or third best team in the Western Conference. And now I think your outlook is a little bit different. They do have the 23rd pick in the draft, that no second round picks. I'm really not sure where to go with Utah. I know their fans want to take a big in the draft and think that's going to solve everything.
Yeah.
I think they still have some structural issues and then some possible chemistry issues.
Yeah, some locker room internal things.
Yeah.
I don't know where you go. Like, you're not going to get like an equal center for Gobert.
No.
Like that's just not possible.
And then I think they're not interested in trading Donovan Mitchell.
Oh no, for sure not. Like that's he's the untouchable.
He's the guy that you keep, especially considering the fact that he'll sign an extension there and he'll have to be there for another little while, which is how the NBA works. So I'm guessing Donovan Mitchell, unless he absolutely demands a trade, is likely stuck in Utah for the foreseeable future. I know they talked about possibly trading Donovan Mitchell, and like he was the one that they might be looking to deal, but I just don't think you can do it.
I don't know who you like. Yeah, who'd you be happy with?
In the playoffs, like he was playing such great basketball, and like while that's completely unsustainable, and he's not necessarily going to look like that all the time.
He's not going to average 57 points a game. I mean, but he's the guy of that franchise.
36.3 points per game over 7 games.
He had that like 57 points, didn't he?
Impressive. That's really good. And like on great efficiency as well. And I know a lot more people want him kind of controlling the offense. I still think it would be great for him to play next to maybe more of a primary initiator. Mike Conley certainly has seen better days, but I think, if he's healthy next year, you certainly want that. And the one thing I will say is with Mike Conley having that deal, like they could possibly look to maybe add somebody and give that to a team that maybe just wants to get like some money off of the books.
Yeah. That's
then have Utah maybe contend. Like, so I guess you'll see how they're doing, and that Mike Conley contract could eventually like become a trade chip.
No, it's like totally like once you get into the season.
I'm assuming they're going to try and bring back Clarkson, but he is on like an unrestricted free agent, and Yeah, they're a team that I feel is probably headed on the downward trajectory, unfortunately.
I think with the way some of the other teams are going, like I think Dallas is on that way up. It's hard for them to be where they're at again.
Yeah. Well, Utah's done a great job, like just kind of running that team. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see. Like it certainly seemed like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were getting along fine. Just was kind of a monumental collapse, and yeah, I have a feeling that whoever they drafted the 23rd pick is likely not going to put them over the top.
Yeah, it's not going to move the needle.
And yeah, like they just I don't think have a lot of money for wiggle room, especially considering that you're going to be looking at signing Donovan Mitchell to a long-term extension. Yeah. Moving on to Oklahoma City, and this is a team that I think we can safely say will be rebuilding. It looks like Chris Paul is likely on the way out, and we'll see what happens there. Obviously, he has a gigantic contract moving forward for the next few years, but it seems like he is maybe interested in starting somewhere else. And they do have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who played some fantastic basketball at times, was a little disappointed in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Danilo Gallinari played some great basketball for them. My third guy for them is Steven Adams, just because he's still on the books. But Danilo's a free agent. So, yeah, Danilo was making $22 million per year. It is like, I'm guessing he'll want long-term money. I'm not sure, but it certainly looks like he could go somewhere else. Oklahoma City has never been a huge free agent destination. And
free agent destination for people going the other way.
yeah. And Kevin Durant for
instance. Yeah, remember that when you move on.
Yeah, and then the other player that is somebody who seems to be a constant draft comparison all the damn time, Andre Roberson, and he he's off the books for them, and I'm not sure how much of a market there will be. I know he's had injury issues, so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm thinking, like, a lot of people have said Chris Paul to the Knicks. Chris Paul could go to a contender. Like, Chris Paul is another guy I'm thinking of, maybe like Utah, if Utah feels they have like this window.
Yeah.
Try and convince Chris Paul to go Utah, I guess, maybe.
Get Conley, then take his contract off next
year. But you feel, even with Chris Paul, like, let's say Chris Paul has that one more year where he's like at this level, it's worth a shot. Like, the guy is
he's still gonna do it. And like, honestly, I think they had a lot of bright spot from Lujan Stort in that series.
That was a guy. One thing I will say, he had a good game 7 against Houston in terms of individual offense. Was maybe the last guy I would want on that team in that situation that he was in.
Oh, totally.
And I think that even with his playing great defense against James Harden, at times he was like such a minus on offense. I think people have gone, as well as Lou Gents played, I think people have gone way overboard on what he brings to the table. And, like, maybe he'll prove me wrong and eventually become a better offensive player and somebody you get more consistent output from there. But yeah, I would be. I
think exceed the expectation for like a rookie two-way contract.
Yeah, well, especially considering, and he could even help them salary-wise because he signed like this kind of. It's not like a super long-term deal, but it's basically like a rookie scale kind of deal where the team option for like the last 2 years is like ridiculously low.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying.
Undoubtedly get that.
But that's a good piece when you have a contributor that you can have, like, you can keep at that point.
Yeah, you honestly, you hope you can eventually use your money or get. And I'm thinking that they are hoping by next year they have a few more lottery combinations and can kind of get somebody to further build around. With a guy like Shai, they still have Dennis Schroeder for another year, and he played really well. And then
Yeah,
the 3-guard lineup with Chris Paul, Shea, and Schroeder, like that was really interesting stuff.
especially because Shea's a little taller in the point guard. In that point guard, he kind of mold. 6'5".
Well, and he can play wing, yeah.
Yeah.
So that works too. Yeah, I feel like they're going to start going down. Nerlens Noel was the other free agent choice that I had. But yeah, let's move on to Houston. And obviously the 3 guys there that I will highlight are James Harden, Eric Gordon, and the guy who didn't necessarily was the scapegoat, I think, for pretty decent reason in the playoffs, Russell Westbrook. Making he and Chris Paul were pretty much, I guess, the only guys you could kind of trade for each other.
Yeah,
Russ is just making so damn much money. And they had the hardest time on offense with him on the floor. The way they could play 5 out and everything, that was great. But Russ's shooting is just such it's so inconsistent. It's so streaky.
Well, that's why I think with Harden, you want someone else that could also shoot. And that's
Chris Paul was worlds better there.
Yeah, well, Chris Paul can shoot, and he was a little bit more
Now is Russ maybe more versatile as far as you can play him up in position and stuff like that? Yes, but yeah, as far as everything else in terms of actual efficiency, Chris Paul certainly is a world different there.
Yeah, when I think in the playoffs, things slow down, and those series become those drives become tighter, and that's where you Harden is awesome in the isolation and shooting, but when he does drive, I don't think Russell Westbrook's the player you want to kick it back out to.
No.
In that drive,
Russ, when his mid-range jumper fully wasn't working, what was the point? It was hard to watch. I'll be real. PJ Tucker and Robert Covington, I think, played pretty much. Well, Covington in the playoffs played about as well as you could hope.
I think they got a lot of good production out of him.
Yeah, and then Eric Gordon is another guy who you're going to get buckets and at least decent defense.
He's another he's a shooter reliably. Yeah. Whereas Russell Westbrook, it's hard. You're paying him so much, but I just think at the end of these tight games, he and Harden don't quite complement each other, because basically you want Harden to have the ball and you want Russell Westbrook to completely get out of the way.
Harden have the ball and Russ to get the fuck out of the way.
Go take a seat, get a lemonade, because that's Harden's situation, but he needs reliable guys to kick it back out to, because
I'm still really intrigued with how they're going to look next year with this after a full year.
Totally, because I think they're not going to get another set. They're not looking market themselves for a set. They're gonna keep this. But even without D'Antoni as the coach, that's where it's going to get interesting. Who are they going to kind of bring into build the system? But I think
I honestly don't know if D'Antoni not being the coach is a win.
No,
I'm not sure if the system is going to be as great without him.
Yeah, no, I think they were.
I thought he did a really good job, and they had me on the edge of my seat, man. I thought they could make a run,
because they're that team that really can get super hot quickly. Everyone possesses some sort.
Well, they have one of the best scorers of all time.
Yeah, everyone possesses a threat offensively. And that's what's
exactly. The fact that you could play 5 out, pretty much everybody's coming back. The one guy who played center for them and had some great minutes in the playoffs, who is a free agent, is Jeff Green. And I'm wondering what exactly is going to happen with him, and is he just going to see Houston as a place where he fits in so well? So why not? Is there much of a market for Jeff Green anymore? Certainly didn't seem to be last year.
Yeah, well, that's why I think he comes back, because I think it was such a good fit for him.
Yeah. And Houston also has no draft picks. So are they going to try and buy a second-round pick, or maybe trade somebody to hope to gain some draft capital? We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I feel like Houston is at least going to be kind of around that same general area.
It's hard to count them. It's hard to count them out as long as they have James Harden, and for the things Russell Westbrook doesn't give you. He does give you some good things as well defensively. And in the open court, it's just like I think like at the end of the game, it's like get out, give it to Harden. And I think
Indiana, I've got Victor Oladipo, Malcolm Brogdon, Domantas Sabonis. Another guy you could probably throw in there is Miles Turner. This is somebody that is still making some pretty decent money over the next few years and is like a center that I don't think a lot of teams would mind having. He's not necessarily like, the biggest name out there, and it certainly seemed like Domas was much more of a factor for the team than him. But yeah, Miles does give you that rim protection and some ability to stretch as well. Not on like the worst contract either. He's making like $18 million for the next 7 years, it seems. No, it's actually just 3 more. But yeah, I've heard. So Victor has 1 more year after this. It seems like he might be looking for somewhere else to go. I've heard rumors of Miles Turner looking for somewhere else to go. You have Malcolm Brogdon that you signed.
Sabonis coming off an injury.
Yeah. And that was really unfortunate. And then the other guy who I guess could be in that group of 3 players is TJ Warren, who was a bubble all-star. And
he had a few pretty impressive showings.
Yeah. And then I feel like in the playoffs, he did not necessarily live up to that billing. So, yeah. TJ Warren is a huge bucket getter. That's for sure. And it's nice to have that. Certainly a lot of teams could use that depth. But, yeah, he was not necessarily shooting as lights out in the playoffs. He still averaged 20 points per game. But yeah, I think you're ultimately hoping that Victor is at least closer back. He was coming off of an injury as well, and you're hoping that he gets back to his all-star self, or at least somewhere around there. Malcolm Brogdon certainly was on the edge of being an all-star as well.
Yeah,
so yeah, they have a solid team, and if they run it like through another year, or maybe look to make a few deals, it could be interesting in Indiana.
Because I think like Justin Holiday is really
he's their one free agent.
Yeah. So it's like
of guys who played some significant minutes.
Yeah.
And then they have the 54th pick in the draft. Just hoping somebody really, really good slips there.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think in the East they'll still fit in that like middle of the pack.
Yeah. I'm guessing they'll be somewhere around there. It's just too solid not to be. If they stay healthy and like that's the ultimate hope, because they had a lot of injury issues this year and still I felt performed exceptionally well.
I think they might get a little bit of a break just because it's like we don't know when the next season is going to start, so maybe like they do get like an additional couple of months. Yeah. Hopefully like Victor get healthy. I don't know the time frame on Sabonis, but hopefully like he could come back.
Yeah, that's ultimately what you're hoping. Denver, the talk of the bubble, the talk of the playoffs.
Yeah. The 3-1 special.
Yeah, gosh, doing that twice in the playoffs against teams that you thought really had the series in hand. With Jamal Murray taking that extra step, Nikola Jokic showing that he is like a top 10 player in the league, and you have a really I feel like by next year the third guy is going to be Michael Porter Jr., who I think is their 4 of the future, but he's at least a forward, and if he stays healthy, he's high level shooter, high level around the basket. Yeah, the guy is he's always just been a vertical athletic freak as well, and like able to like get his head at the rim on rebounds. He was very impressive at times. Defense still needs a lot of work. That's one thing that everybody will point out, because he has the occasional defensive flare up. Not necessarily the best passer either, but luckily you have 2 fantastic passers.
Yeah,
I felt like Jamal Murray improved his decision making quite a bit as well. Not to mention, seemed to improve scoring from all three levels. I don't know how sustainable that is moving forward, but I think he's like an all-star level player.
Yeah,
And
I think
he could be a top 20 guy next year.
I think he took that leap to that
Yeah.
level.
In the playoffs, he was
like he's gonna be in that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think you have your core of he and Jokic. Like those are your two untouchables.
Yeah, the two-man game with them obviously worked very, very well.
But they do have some free agency things.
Yeah, the free agency like could deplete their depth quite a bit. So Paul Millsap comes off the books. That's a lot of money. You have Mason Plumlee. That was $14 million.
14 million, yeah, like off the
I assume that Paul Millsap's going to sign for way less wherever he goes. And yeah, they may want to move on from Paul Millsap.
Jeremy Grant's got a player option.
Yeah, to me, Jeremy Grant's a free agent. He's not taking that. And Denver actually, like Denver could be a team that pays him. So they won't pay him exorbitant amounts, but if you're spending $14 million on Mason Plumlee, why not do that on Jeremy Grant?
Oh, totally. And I think he proved a really good worth in the playoffs. Like I think he was really having some pretty good games on on both ends of the court. So I would try to hang on to him.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with a friend, and like the shooting leap that Jeremy Grant took as a prospect is like almost unheard of. Paul Millsap was one of the other guys who he brought up as somebody who like took this unheard of shooting leap as a prospect. Like Jeremy Grant was considered a non-shooter pretty much coming out of college.
That wasn't in his
he was 6 of 15 from three as a freshman, so like that was 40%. But on 15
small sample size, yeah. Like people take that in a game.
His sample size as a sophomore was 5 shots in which he missed all of them, and so 6 of 20 from three over his college career. In the past couple years, he's shooting 39% from three on like pretty decent volume. So yeah, just crazy what's happened there, and the fact that he can play either forward spot and was defending LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and it may not have worked, but an admirable job.
He gives you an admirable job, and he's like versatile in that he can guard.
And then of course you missed having Will Barton.
Totally, but
Denver does have the 22nd pick.
Monte Morris gets good minutes too.
Oh, absolutely. Monte Morris is a legit, good backup player.
Gary Harris,
I think can play like starter minutes also and still be a nice player for you too. Gary Harris they have for a couple more years at $19 and $20 million. But yeah, they have two other guys who played quite a few minutes. Or one other guy, Torrey Craig, free agent. Plays good wing minutes, and I'm guessing we'll want a little bit more than what he was being paid before. I'm not sure there's a huge market for Torrey Craig, but he was another guy that was giving them good minutes. They may have been like Will Barton minutes, but Torrey Craig, good defender, and whatever offense you get out of him is gravy. Denver is a team that I think we should at least be on that same level and could be up. With the way that they were playing, they're a team that you really fear in the future if you are the rest of the NBA.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's young core guys that you can hang on to.
This was a huge step for Denver, and if you can get like Bol to fill in, people were already saying after Mason Plumlee kind of screwed up the defensive rotation on that Anthony Davis 3-pointer. They're like, why not just play Bol instead?
Well, and Bol, again, eligible for rookie because he's made his debut in Orlando, eligible for rookie of the year next year. So I'm starting the campaign.
I'm guessing there's no fucking chance, but sure.
Stranger things have happened, but I'm starting.
Michael Porter didn't get any votes for rookie of the year.
It's not going to take time off the board. It's already been purchased.
Michael Porter didn't get any votes for rookie of the year. Did Michael Porter make an all-rookie team? I don't think he did. Yeah. Did he?
I I don't know if it was math or science. He's probably not that into it, but
Yeah, exactly. The voting does take math. Moving on to Boston. This is another team where it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the offseason.
I mean, that like, well, Gordon Hayward getting paid a ton coming on the player option. Again,
Yeah.
comes to that same situation of like,
And so he's not a free agent.
yeah,
He's taking that money. Yeah, I just can't see Gordon turning down that money because whatever long-term extension I believe he signs will not make it worth turning down $34 million next year.
yeah.
Yeah. So Jaylen Brown signed his extension, so it kicks in, and it was somewhere in like so 23, 25, yeah. So he signed a long-term extension. You are going to have to worry about signing Jason Tatum to the max because he took a giant step forward. And
He's your
one thing I will say, yeah, he's your franchise guy.
yeah.
And for the people that looked at Jaylen Brown, like Jaylen Brown had a more efficient personal offensive series against Miami, like in terms of his own offense, than Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum still was so much better of a player than him. Like his passing was fantastic, averaging like 10 rebounds per game. Defense is like his instincts on D are fantastic as well. He just didn't shoot as well as normal and had a few struggles. Like that one game where he had no points in the first half and then 28 points in the second half. Like,
Yeah.
what? But yeah, of course, you would like Jason Tatum to be more efficient in some of those games. Marcus Smart, I still feel was a good signing and is pretty crucial to their team.
No, I definitely.
Kemba's a good player, but yeah, he's I still kind of think Kemba's like their second guy. But yeah, you just kind of wonder. He kills you on defense sometimes, and if he's not hitting shots, then it's really tough.
No, totally. I think that was a little bit of their problem, but I like Marcus Smart.
They're lucky because Tice has the team option, and they'll I think
I think they'll keep him because I think he's again he's a scrappy dude.
They should keep him. Yeah, I felt like he played really really well. But yeah, they certainly could use some help in the front court, and yeah, just if they had somebody like Bam Adebayo, just absolutely annihilated them.
No, it's because they don't have an answer for that because like
they didn't.
Because like, yeah, like they list Tatum, as kind of powerful, but he's like defensively he's not.
Oh, I think Jason Tatum can guard like pretty much 2 through 4 really well. But yeah, I think as far as a center, like yeah, you don't want to play Jason Tatum.
Yeah, to play Jason Tatum. Put him in that
and that wasn't his job. Like yeah, Jaylen Brown more than anything was guarding Bam, and I don't think that worked out exceptionally well.
Very well, yeah.
And Tice, of course, and then you have a guy like Ennis who has a player option, which I think he'll undoubtedly take. I just don't think there's a huge market for Ennis. Robert Williams, if you look at around the basket and points per possession, he is second in the playoffs.
Jeez. And
yeah, so great finishing around the basket. Unfortunately, I think that's due to the fact that I think those are all of his shots. So, and obviously, like very good there, but yeah, limited. And but yeah, he shows some flashes and certainly some intrigue there. The one guy who played minutes for them who is a free agent is Brad Wanamaker, and I think that they would be interested in bringing him back, but not sure. Grant Williams is a guy who, if they want to just keep going small, is somebody that they might want to play minutes at center as well. And if he shows improvement as a shooter, could cause a world of matchup issues there. They have a lot of like nice young assets, and then like
you have the draft capital too.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
so they have 3 picks in the first round. They have the 14th pick, 26th pick, and 30th pick, and then they have the 47th pick. Gordon Hayward is somebody who, like, as we saw when he came back, like, made them a world different team, and they were much better with him in the fold. His ability to create off the dribble, great passer, provide some shooting. He's still a really good player. He's not somebody you ultimately want $34 million paid to, and then in his next contract you kind of have to worry about that. So to me, Gordon looks like a guy who could be on the trading block for them. And
well, they're gonna make, like, Danny Ainge always makes moves.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, are they gonna
usually for future assets though?
Yeah,
So
no, totally. Like, are they gonna draft 3? You know, are they gonna use all 3 of their picks? Are they gonna try to do that? Like, to, you know, get rid of Hayward, try to add, you know.
Yeah.
I thought Boston. I still think Boston is towards the top of the East again.
Yeah. Oh man, they like the 3 guys that they have, and then you add Marcus Smart, and yeah, they bring back all their starters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like their young guys are going to be better next year, and yeah, we'll see what ends up happening in the draft and if they can make a trade with that. But yeah, they have that, like, if they even maintain those, like, top 6 guys, like, that's a team right there.
No, that's a pretty good rotation.
And yeah, they gave Miami some trouble. The Clippers just fired Doc Rivers, so we'll see a new coach next year.
The coach,
thing I heard,
the first coach in history to bring them respectability.
What? Oh, the first coach to get Clippers respectability.
Yeah, like, the playoffs and make a team in the NBA.
I heard that they weren't happy that they didn't play Ivica Zubac more minutes, and I think Montrez is out of there. We'll just put it that way. 6th man of the year, had a great year, but yeah, I just I guess there was some complaints about how Doc kind of ran things. I think the Clippers have next year, and then things could get really interesting. Both of those guys have player options that they could indeed decline and look for a more lucrative long-term deal. Paul George might want to take his, but we'll see. Kawhi, I think, certainly will be in the market to do that. Yeah, you have Marcus Morris as a free agent. He was a guy that they kind of added to their team to make that hopeful title run, and that, I guess, he and Montrez, I guess, clear, like, some money off the books. I'm just not sure.
You're so tight in like Kawhi and Paul George. It's hard to keep wiggling.
Yeah. And then the one other guy, he barely played, but Patrick Patterson was the one other free agent who I guess was originally, I think he started off the season like starting for them. And yeah, I just have a feeling he's not going to be back. So yeah, they may have 3 roster spots that they're looking to fill. If I'm going to put a player alongside Kawhi Leonard and Paul George as, like, the 3rd guy there, it's probably Lou Williams. I know Patrick Beverley is certainly, like, the face, but Lou Williams is the scoring ability.
Yeah, like that bench, like, offense. But, like, you know, again, 15th year, like, how much does he have left?
Seems like the guy certainly like Zubac, and he signed to, I feel, a very reasonable deal as your starting center. And yeah, like, seemed to provide some nice flashes on both ends of the floor still as a young center. You just kind of wonder, like, you felt like the Clippers could play all these different styles, and without Montrez and without Marcus Morris, and, you know, is it going to look the same? Like, who are they filling in? Like, who's necessarily going to give them more depth? Like,
yeah, well,
it just doesn't seem to have, like, a lot of assets to really work around with.
Yeah, this year I think they had
Andrew Shamet, I think, is a very nice player for them. Did I freeze, or was that you?
Oh, no, we were just talking the same. No, I thought if the Clippers had that depth this year, like, I going into the playoffs, I thought that was something that was going to, like, really help get
Oh
the
yeah. Well,
over,
it
over a
certainly
hump.
looked like like that was certainly the expectation, and
Yeah, but
I think maybe like honestly they didn't have enough from like the starters.
no, totally. And
That was the problem.
they kind of like when you have these superstar guys making so much money, it's like you back yourself into this like corner of like you don't have as many like you don't have as many other assets to work with to really make things.
Well, and like the fact that one of them was definitely much more of a superstar than the other. Kawhi Leonard looked like at times possibly the best player in the league,
Proven
whereas
playoff,
Paul George was not necessarily on that
proven
level.
playoff superstar as well.
And
You know,
yeah,
like
Paul George had Paul George the season before had finished third in MVP voting. Kawhi Leonard led his team to an NBA championship. Paul George lost in the first round.
well, because
There's a difference there.
Well, with Kawhi, they do that like he chills during the regular season, then you just like unleash him.
The thing is, he chilled during the regular season and was still better. Like
Well,
he was still way better.
He's a tremendous player.
He is, and like I still feel they're going to be in the thick of things next year.
But it's interesting.
Yeah,
that
we'll see who ends up being
the guy he wanted to run with.
Are they going to promote Tyronn Lue? Yeah, we'll see what happens.
They
end up building chemistry. I just feel like this was kind of like the year too, and you're going to have to worry about filling in some rotation pieces.
No, totally. I think Montrez is gone, and is going to be. You're not going to get that off the bench from somebody else very easily.
No, not at all. They do have JaMychal Green on a player option, and he played some good minutes for them. He's not necessarily. Yeah.
They'll probably get more time now too. Like the Montrez is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, you're going to have to fill the minutes Montrez is giving up. A team that apparently Montrez is looking at, and their fans are, at least from my angle, are not necessarily looking forward to adding this player, is Toronto. And that's the next team. Finished with the second best record in the league. And Nick Nurse has done a phenomenal job there. Of course, Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, and crew.
I mean, the gamble for Kawhi on the rental was worth it.
Absolutely.
They rolled the dice.
One championship.
They came up big, and they did something. You know, as you know, you and I grew up in Toronto.
They lost Kawhi and Danny. They lost like that whole trade.
And we were.
But they won a championship, so it's all good.
We were there at the beginning at the Sky Dome, when it's like I didn't think this team was ever going to make the play, like have a winning record, let alone make the playoffs. And then Kawhi is the first guy to get them to that championship. So like totally worth it. Like as far as their guys, I mean, obviously this is still Kyle Lowry's team.
It should have been Pascal Siakam's
team, but Kyle Lowry,
yeah. He had a really rough playoff series.
But again, this is his first playoff being that asked to take on that role.
And he didn't.
And I mean, a lot of guys learn from that.
Yeah. Well, I think with him, he seems to be much better around the basket than jump shooting just in general. And his 3-point volume was, I think, too high because it wasn't working. It wasn't working for him. He has to improve as a shooter for sure. And I think there just you would have thought that his physical tools would have played more of a role than they ended up playing in that series, where he really struggled.
No, totally. It was tough, but yeah, I hope he could learn from it. But like the Raptors next year are going to look super, super different anyway. Because I mean, Van Vliet, 100%. Like, unless there's some miracle of some kind, like he's gone.
Well, they could see. To me, they could still re-sign him. I know they're going to try and obviously keep money for the 2021 free agency, which I think a lot of teams are going to do.
You figured because Serge Ibaka is also free agent. You got Marcus
Yeah,
Gasol.
Serge and Mark. Yeah, like they could potentially sign somebody this offseason. They likely won't. If they're signing Serge and Mark, it's going to be for like 20% of what they were making. And yeah, so they do have those free agent spots. The other guys I wanted to mention, Rondae Hollis Jefferson, and of course, the most important guy, and I think this is a crucial re-signing, Chris Boucher.
Yeah, he's
and
free agent, so the ball's in their court to bring him back. I mean,
yeah, their front court could look very, very different next year.
Right now, you look like you think about that. Like if there's no Boucher, no Serge Ibaka, no Marcus Gasol, I mean, those are really your three bigger guys up front. You know, with Siakam.
Yeah, I think the ultimate hope is like signing one of them short term. I've heard Marc Gasol possibly maybe looking to go back to Spain, or I'm thinking he'll play like maybe one more year and make like some mid-level exception kind of money. Serge, I'm thinking like neither of them I think are 8-figure guys at this point. Fred VanVleet is definitely an 8-figure guy, and
he's getting paid somewhere. Like he's
the 20s, or could be even 25. Yeah, he's getting paid somewhere. I'm not so sure it's not Toronto, but we'll see.
I'd love for him to be back in the Raptors uniform.
Yeah, like I'm not sure all of the options that the Raptors are going to have. That's always something that I worried about as somebody from Toronto, like knowing the history of that team and how difficult it's been to sign big long-term free agents. One of the reasons why signing DeMar DeRozan was such a big deal back in the day.
Of course.
And then eventually that, of course, led to an amazing thing.
Yeah,
as far as draft capital, Raptors keep both their picks, 29th and 59th. We'll see if they do anything there.
Yeah.
Now everybody is saying that Toronto is like this developmental wonderland. Certainly Norman Powell was a dynamite second-round pick. Pascal Siakam. They've done some good things with some late-round picks. We'll see if it happens here. It usually takes some more time. The third guy I actually had, so, I had Pascal. I still feel like I know Kyle is like the heart and soul, but I still feel like it's Pascal's team moving forward. You have Kyle Lowry, who is still the heart and soul and still a crucial factor. And then the third guy, I think, is OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
And OG is somebody who didn't even play during the NBA Finals run. And it was amazing that they won without him, because you felt like he would be kind of a big factor there. Just kind of more credit to how great that team was last year. And yeah, OG, I felt had some really great flashes against Boston and just in general this year. Great defender and vastly improved shooter, particularly making that that one shot that won the Raptors the game.
Hey, yeah.
Walk off. And yeah,
that was a benefit of the bubble too, because Kyle Lowry could stand like way further back.
Absolutely.
With fans and then get it over Taco.
That was very big, and yeah, that was awesome. That was a great play.
Oh, it was amazing, incredible.
Taco should have been defending OG. That's who would have been interesting. So OG would have it over even like the longer arm of Taco. No, obviously Jaylen Brown should have been maybe a little bit closer, and yeah, that whole zone thing didn't necessarily work out there.
Happens to the best of us.
And finally, yeah, so the Raptors are a team that will look very different. I still think they're going to be like a decent team, but
they're still top of the Eastern
Conference. Are they going to take a step down from this year? I think so.
But I still think they're in the top half of the East. Yeah. But I think
you've said that about like 8 teams.
8 teams, I know, totally. I have high hopes for a lot of teams.
I'm calling you out on this.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they're. I mean, Lowry's obviously getting older.
All 15 teams in the East are in the top half of the East.
I'll say this: every team next year has a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah. Maybe. I think we can write a few off. But, yeah, we'll see what happens in draft and free agency. Lord knows.
Definitely a
But
different look.
we're just giving you a preview to what it may look like, of course. Milwaukee, we finally got there. Disappointing end to the year for those guys.
Really disappointing end to the year.
Yeah. Giannis has this tremendous year. They're this amazing regular season team, too, like with a huge point differential. In the bubble, they go 3-5. They lose their first game to Orlando. They win their next 4 games against Orlando, and then they lose their first 3 games against Miami. Giannis goes down. He scored 19 points in 11 minutes before he went down. Like, Giannis, if you look at his raw playoff numbers, still fantastic.
No, totally.
But yeah, like, are there some issues with Giannis? Yes, he's not a great shooter. His free throw shooting is up and down. Like, yeah, there are definitely a few things you can point to, and it just seems like the rest of the guys didn't necessarily live up to their end of the bargain. Yeah, so Giannis, I felt, was still like around his normal production, whereas Chris Middleton, I didn't feel was necessarily the same, though not too bad. And I felt we'll just say this. Us at Viseland feel like Chris Middleton was snubbed from an All-NBA team, and like Russell Westbrook making it over him is crazy. They should have figured something out there. He did have more votes, but was a forward, and Russ was a guard, and you couldn't move Jimmy to guard. Like, come on, figure something out, people, or make it positionless with like a big or who knows. But yeah, so Chris Middleton. Eric Bledsoe didn't necessarily live up to his end of the bargain. Brook Lopez became a guy who was like all NBA, an all defensive team guy who people used to harp on his defense.
No, totally. They said Robin had the defense, Brook had the offense.
Yeah. So he, yeah. And then I felt like some of their complimentary guys like didn't necessarily have the best playoffs. Milwaukee was, of course, a team that was harping on the fact that some of the guys didn't necessarily have baskets and like stuff like that. Like Giannis didn't have a basket. Chris Middleton hadn't touched a basketball in like 3 months and stuff like that. Those could have added up as well. But yeah, and the bubble certainly had made things different. But yeah, they met.
It's not because they had all that momentum during the regular season.
Yeah.
That they didn't get to carry on.
Yeah. Well, and you just, I think they could use a little bit more shooting. The problem is of their free agents who kind of played minutes, Kyle Korver is a free agent. We'll see what he ends up doing, if he maybe retires or goes somewhere else.
Marvin Williams did retire.
Pat Connaughton, who I felt played some pretty decent minutes for Milwaukee and provides some shooting as well, is a free agent also. One other guy, he didn't play very much for them, but I know has been around the team for a few years, Sterling Brown, who I still feel like has at least a chance to maybe get a rotation or role spot on somewhere else. Yeah, it's like, so Budenholzer's still in. We'll see what happens. But yeah, like the harp on Budenholzer this year was, or I think in many years in the past, is he has this rotation and he'll play like a few guys, and like Giannis only played like 31 minutes per game. In the playoffs, you want Giannis playing like 40 minutes per game. Like,
and you ability to be reliable.
The per 36 numbers Giannis puts up are what makes him MVP. Like, they're just absurd. Like, Giannis deserved the MVP this year. Giannis was the best player during the regular season. Giannis certainly, if he won Defensive Player of the Year by a very wide margin. He's great on both ends of the floor. Play him more minutes. Play the other guys more minutes. But again, like I'm guessing there are some like structural things there in terms of just expecting shooting where it wasn't necessarily there. And
I think they get into the offseason with the biggest question mark hanging over their heads of just the disappointment of how this season ended. Yeah. For them.
And then obviously, Giannis is saying all the right things and saying that he's coming back and, wants to ride this out. And he could be a guy that does that. But I think there are going to be a lot of enticing landing spots for Giannis in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a full court press from like everybody.
Yeah. And Miami has put themselves in this fantastic position to save for the free agents in 2021. Like a Giannis or Kawhi, or they're talking about Victor Oladipo, but Miami may even have enough money to add 2 players. Like Victor, obviously not like a full max, but like just something there.
Max.
And then so they're in Toronto. I know is a team that is very interested in Giannis. We'll see what happens. I think Milwaukee has to do something next year to keep Giannis. I have a feeling during the regular season they're still going to be one of the best teams in the league, but it's going to be all about the playoffs.
It's going to be very precious. Yeah, it's going to be like it's not going to beat anything until they like
if Giannis wins a ring there, he's another guy who could just still leave. But him winning a ring there, I think, would be a huge factor towards possibly bringing him back. And just not really sure that they have what it takes, I guess, especially considering the fact that Miami, while they have I'm guessing they'll still look to sign guys for like short-term deals and try and run it back.
Yeah.
And then they could win the championship. And then guys will even much more want to sign for short-term deals. We reached the end with Milwaukee as far as offseason outlook. Let's get down to the NBA Finals preview. We know we took a long time on that offseason outlook. It's our style.
Get used to it. But like again, it's not the finals that people predicted because again, it was really in the East. Like for going into it was Milwaukee, Boston, maybe Toronto. But like for me,
I'm not shocked it's Miami because Miami looked so good at certain points this year. They were really like just nicely constructed and like people took Bam taking this like massive step forward was like absolutely dominant against Boston. I felt like had a tremendous series there. The reason I think it's going to be the Lakers, beyond them having the 2 best players in the series, I still worry about some of the Lakers' complementary pieces, and one guy who has been like surprisingly fantastic for them has been Rajon Rondo, and
is so much improved for him because
Rajon Rondo right now is shooting like 46 or 45% from 3. Not a huge sample size,
but that was such a huge knock on him early in his career.
Yeah. Like the fact that he's at least a viable shooter from like mid-range and long range at this point. Like obviously doesn't take a ton from mid-range, and you don't want him to. But yeah, like the fact that he's willing to shoot, you don't have people necessarily like basically guarding the paint when they're guarding Rajon Rondo anymore, and is a really good passer. So yeah, he was crucial to them having the guard lineup necessary to get to this point. When I talked about Robert Williams being second in points per possession around the basket, number 1 is Anthony Davis, and number 3 is LeBron James. So those 2 players are amazing finishers and are playing at a very high level right now. They certainly seem to be the playoff version of themselves.
Well, there's 2 types of like Laker teams right now. It's like, do they go to that, like, do they play JaVale and Dwight, or do they just ditch them and put Anthony Davis at 5?
I think at this point you start off likely playing Dwight Howard at the 5.
So start Dwight.
Yeah, I think you kind of do what you did against Denver and then see how that works. I feel like JaVale's minutes are likely going to be cut. Miami does have the ability to play like a couple of big guys themselves, like Kelly Olynyk, who had a rough series against Boston, but still is a good player. And then, I feel like the Lakers eventually may just scrap it and just go with Anthony Davis.
Because I think
especially if they have, like, if Miami is shooting the way that they have, that might just be the best way to go. I don't think Bam Adebayo is going to necessarily have the same offensive and defensive impact that he had against Boston, against Los Angeles, but he's still going to be a huge impact. Jimmy Butler, you just hope slows down LeBron James a tad, but you want Jimmy to kind of be more of an offensive factor as well.
I think like you put someone like Jay Crowder as well on LeBron.
Oh no.
I think he's.
Stop it.
I don't think he's fast enough to keep up with him. I think he's big to kind of just provide a little. Little that.
Yeah, I feel like it's Jay Crowder may like have to guard him at times, but yeah, like he's not somebody that you optimally want. That's just not like what he does best.
No, totally. But I think like it for periods, I think I would try that.
Yeah.
Because obviously Iguodala and LeBron have obviously gone at it in the finals, and usually the
I think it's going to be a lot of Butler, Iguodala, and now the other factor is the Heat got Goran Dragic has been fantastic throughout the playoffs, and I don't know if he's still leading Miami in scoring, but he was for a while leading Miami in scoring, just individual scoring, of course, and then still is able to make things happen off the dribble and a good passer as well. Makes ridiculously tough shots and can score around the basket. Tyler Hero, who is still while he's still, if you look at offensive and defensive rating, it's still kind of a net negative there. But there were moments against Boston where he was absolutely fantastic. I guess game 4 was the game where he went completely
30-something, yeah.
37 points, yeah. He was phenomenal in that, and then has been a much better shooter, I think, in the playoffs as compared to the regular season, where he was always a good shooter, and especially for a rookie. So yeah, they had 4 guys in that Boston series averaging over 19 points per game with Hero. And yeah, if they're getting that much help, and then you haven't even mentioned Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, who's just a good.
He has been a 45% 3-point shooter, playing some decent defense as well. So Miami doesn't go super deep, but the guys that they do have are very, very good. And then the Lakers.
And a little more, I'd say a little more reliable than the dudes the Lakers are, than the Lakers are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're talking about the complementary pieces, Miami's very much so. The Lakers have gotten a pleasant surprise from Rondo. Everybody else, I feel, has kind of been playing below their level.
I think
Contavious Caldwell-Pope, I felt played a little bit better against Denver. They had played against some of the other teams that they had faced. And then he's a guy that you're hoping it's 38% or somewhere around there from 3. If he's hitting threes, then he's probably playing some at least decent defense as well. Danny Green has not necessarily been himself, but still is a tried and true player.
Yeah,
and
can
still be on the court because he plays good defense and is just, I think, still a very smart player. But yeah, I feel like Anthony Davis and LeBron James are just going to be too much. I have Lakers in 5. I'm rolling with it. I said before this all started that the 3 teams I saw winning it all were the Clippers, who for the longest time were my favorite. I switched the Lakers. I switched back to the Clippers. That was a bad idea. I'm with the Lakers now, and then Milwaukee was the other team that I thought had a pretty decent chance. But where are you thinking, Jason?
I love Miami. I love what they're doing, and they're really peaking at a good time.
Of course.
I still think the high of the Lakers is so high with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I mean, even LeBron at 50%, of his greatness is freaking incredible.
That game 5 against Denver.
Yeah, he just and also LeBron again at both ends. When Jamal Murray started going off, he was okay, this pisses me off. I'm gonna go out and guard him because I want to.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting too to see who LeBron guards at the end of the game.
Who wants to
I'm
frustrate?
guessing, like, I'm thinking it won't be like one of the shooters. Like, I'm thinking it's either Goran or Jimmy. One thing I will say with Miami is they played zone against Boston, and that messed with them. And then I saw that they played some zone against the Lakers in the regular season, and they were definitely below what they normally would be efficiency wise. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, Denver did some of its best work when they kind of like crowded the paint, and the Lakers struggled to shoot, which happens sometimes.
That's
And
what
if Lakers have a couple games where they struggle to shoot,
I think.
that could really lean the series one way or another.
Like once, like if it's like KCP or you know, like Ronald's off, like there's no like the Lakers will be down like 15 points. I think I'm still going with the Lakers. I'm going with the Lakers in 6. I think Miami is going to make it like a little bit more, a little bit more competitive and just frustrate. Because I think Miami like does do a lot of things that will kind of be different from the Lakers, and I just don't think the Lakers always have it every game, other than LeBron and AD. I think LeBron and AD have it pretty much every game, but AD's been struggling rebounding a little bit, which is like
I just wonder if that was more against Denver,
like Jokic and
against Miami.
I don't know like if that's an aberration, but if that continues, especially like he's not rebounding and you're not playing someone else who could Dwight, or I mean they were struggling too, Dwight and JaVale, but
I think Denver was playing a lot of size. That's one thing I'll say. And then AD wasn't playing 5.
Yeah.
So the rebounding struggles were real, but when he eventually, like, in game 5, when he finally like was like, okay, now I really want to do this, like that was key. Yeah, and then like the little knick-knack injuries that he and LeBron had against Denver. LeBron certainly didn't seem to be showing that in his last game, and then Anthony Davis was still
a few days off now. But it'll be interesting to see how this finals looks too. Just in the fact of, again, like the whole playoffs have been like this, but there's no travel.
Yeah.
There's no, like those kind of different things that you get in the finals traditionally, of like going to the other city, having all that kind of vibe and energy. And Miami's peaking. They're playing well together. But I still think it's just like it's LeBron in the playoffs, and I think he's pretty pissed he didn't win MVP, and he's pretty pissed he got hurt last year and they didn't make the playoffs. Like LeBron angry is a problem for a lot of teams, and I just think like that's what they're gonna.
He's going to be possessed. Miami just has great chemistry. I'm really looking forward to it. Want to give a shout out to my co-host Jason Visenberg, whose birthday will be during Game 3 of the NBA Finals.
That is true. For the first time in my life, maybe hopefully the last.
Once in his life.
Maybe hopefully the last, because I don't know if I like these kind of weird seasons. But yeah, usually it is Michael's birthday where we get the NBA Finals action, in that June time. But, this year, my birthday coincides with Game 3, so I'm super excited because I don't like to go out anyway, and it's a pandemic, so you shouldn't be going out. So I am planning on planting myself on my couch and watching Game 3.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, a Miami home game in Orlando. So yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. We hope we gave you at least a little bit of insight into some of these teams and what they're doing in the offseason. I'm guessing this was a pretty long one. But I, for one, enjoy listening to them on my walk. We hope that you guys all enjoy listening to them. You can follow us on Twitter at Viseland. You can email us, viselandpod@gmail.com. I am at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. He is at Jay Visenberg on everything, including Twitter. And yeah, please like, subscribe, tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Write reviews, 5 stars only, because that's the way that things work out. I'm so surprised that I go on Yelp and people are like giving like, oh, this place is amazing, and they're giving it 4 stars. Like, that's not going to help them, people.
Yeah.
So yeah, write 5-star reviews if you really dig the show. And yeah, just really appreciate you, Viselanders. So thank you so much.
Over and out.